Hey, what's going on everybody? Drakefire here again, coming at you with another video on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Today we're going to be talking about melee weapons. Melee weapons are kind of like great for the classes that main spec melee, but for the people that don't really use them very often, they're kind of overlooked. Found myself doing the same thing, just not really caring too much about the melee weapons. And then I realized there are some awesome melee weapons out there that'll help augment just about any build in this game. So this is my personal preference list. We're going to be going from my least to my absolute favorite. Let's jump right in. First thing we're going to have on this list today is the Mage Staff of Edginess. Now, the first thing that's good about this staff is that it's a melee weapon, but it offers you the ability to use a ranged attack with that melee weapon. Now, it says on here that melee attacks create up to 3 fissures that seek out nearby enemies, dealing up to 110% weapon damage as spell damage. Damage is split between all the fissures. And this one also has the perk of having Archmage on it, which is going to give you back 5% of your spell cooldown every time you use it. Now, what I have noticed though, I'm in my Archmage build right now. And if we go ahead and ramp up this build just a tiny little bit, we hit that melee weapon, it's not actually gonna scale with our magic damage at all. It's still scaling off of its weapon damage. So even though the weapon damage is turned into spell damage, you're not getting those bonuses, which it's not that bad because the staff still gives you a ranged attack that costs you absolutely no mana. It can attack up to 3 things, and it gives you 5% of your spell cooldown back every time you use it. So if you're really just trying to stay at a range and not get in there, but you're out of spells and you're low on ammo, this is a great option. Alright, so next up on the list, we have the Spellblade of Anarchy. Now, this is probably one of my favorite stabs or melee weapons to run on my Archmage build because I'm just doing so much spell casting. The big one on this is Spellblade. Melee attacks deal spell damage instead of melee damage. Melee attacks increase spell critical chance by 80% for 6 seconds. So if you're using the Archmage build, like I am right here, or even any other build that really prioritizes spell casting, we're going to go ahead and ramp this up really quick. We're going to come over here and we're going to hit that target dummy and we're going to hope for a critical strike. Come on, critical strike. My crit isn't very high, but there you go. We've got some crits coming out there, and the damage is actually really good. It'll be a little bit hard to see, and there you go, 16k. I've had some 20k ones before. That's another 16. It's not bad at all. Considering you're a spellcaster primary, you got something in your melee that's just going to absolutely help when you're in those tight situations. So, all in all, the Spellblade of Anarchy, definitely number 2 on my list. Alright, now we're coming up to my absolute favorite melee weapon in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands right now, and that's going to be the Goblin Pickaxe. You can get this thing a couple of different ways. It's on the world drop table. It also, when you are doing chaos dungeons and you come to an obelisk, and it has the goblin bosses, they can drop this, and you can also get it from the end of the chaos dungeon where you spend your shards, and you can get it there. Now, this thing is great, just absolutely phenomenal for melee attacks spawn gold. That's already awesome. Whenever the Fatebringer picks up gold, increase movement speed, spell cooldown rate, action cooldown rate by 6 seconds, or by 6% for 5 seconds, and that stacks up to 5 times. That's 30% extra spell cooldown, 30% extra action cooldown, and 30% extra movement speed. This is an absolute wonderful weapon for just about any build in the game. You're going to also get Echo on this, so your melee attacks will deal 10% of all non-melee damage dealt by the Fatebringer over the last 10 seconds as bonus damage, and reset the bonus. A nice little addition to that, if you're pumping out a ton of damage, you can get that hit in really quick. Awesome little burst of damage, but the passive on this with the Goblin Pickaxe is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely putting it at number 1 in my book on the must-have melee weapons. And last but not least, a little bonus for honorable mentions. Now, if you are playing a class that is primarily melee, This bad boy right here is going to be great for you. This is the Wailing Banshee of Edginess. Now on this thing, it's got Wailing Banshee as one of the activated abilities, and your melee attacks create with 3 projectiles that seek out enemies behind the target, dealing 50% of the weapon damage. For this one, that's a little bit under 700 damage, not bad at all, 2100 damage if you count all 3. And it also has Rampage, so if your melee attacks aren't critting, it's going to give you 10% every time until you do crit. Awesome for a primary melee build. But also, over here, we have the Snake Stick of the Crusher. Now the Snake Sticks have an interesting little ability on them. It's called Snake Stick. Melee attacks spawn a Hydra companion that deals melee damage for 6 seconds. So this is actually pretty good if you're running a companion build, which are really popular right now. This can be another way to get just a couple more companions out there really quick if you need the extra damage. Definitely something to put on your list and grab if you got the time. So that's gonna wrap it up on our melee weapon list. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found some useful information at this and maybe gave you a new light to those melee weapons that you haven't really been using too much. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and make sure to check us out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/DrakeFire. We're streaming most days out of the week and we'd love you to join the community. Till next time.